Hello, I hope you're all going well. I just wanted to, obviously as promised, what I'm going to be doing today is for September's masterclass is I'm going to be going through and just running through all of the slides that we did on our live call in August with the Google guys from Sydney. Which they call the future of Google Ads in your business. And as we go through it, I will be giving, I guess, probably my view on some of these things. And just some, obviously, I have waited a week or two because I have had some extra follow-up conversations with them. And then I've also taken the time to go through and have a look at my own accounts, what's been happening, what hasn't been working around the areas they were talking about. Now, you'll also get access to these slides, which have been able to organize for you. So if you do have any further questions, please feel free to keep the conversation going on this topic. All right, so look, we can quickly speed through the first couple of slides. Obviously, this was for people there, this was with Jackson and also with Ben. Now, the one thing I will mention on both of these guys, and I guess probably why I asked them now, to give you some context of how I've come across these guys, I've been part of, some of my clients have been part of the accelerated program, which is, most countries will have their own accelerated program, but this is in Australia, this is really based around companies that are spending at least about $50,000 a month, but they are looking to increase the spend of, to over $1,000, even up to $200,000 a month. To be honest with you, I've had some of these guys and they, speaking frankly, they have drunken too much of the Google juice, if that makes sense. Whereas I do find both of these guys, because they did come from real world experience first before they moved into Google, they, definitely pro Google, but at the same time, they are aware of some of the shortcomings that come through and some of the missteps that Google makes. So, and that's very much where I'm at. Obviously, I'm a big believer in Google, as if most people are here, but at the same time, I do still take a cautious approach, especially with any new campaigns that come out and campaign types that come out. I've been on the record as saying, especially for Performance Max, I didn't touch it for the first 5 months because I don't want to be seen as, I don't want to be a test dummy, so to speak. I'd rather get some real data there before I start investing time and money into that type of campaign. So I do want to obviously put that in context as we go through this as well. So what I want to I'll quickly go through. You can have a look at these ones. There's nothing real big there. But what I want to just go through is, it is important to note, and this is probably an important slide, that this is what Google looked like back in the year 2000. I mean, I know some of you would have only just been born, but I do remember Google like this. I remember, when through university, I was in uni in the year 2000. I remember, this was, my daily screen that I would see. So it has looked it does look very, very different. And I'll get through and explain this further, especially when we get to enhanced conversions. There are some really important things that we need to take into account. So just keep a reminder of this is where Google was, because it will continue to look a lot different in the future. So this was the first section. So they're really going to break it down to 3 sections. And the first section they spoke about was about the campaign structure and the importance of campaign structure. There was some really good elements in there that I'll bring out and highlight. Then they did go through some myth busting. And then they also went through basically the future of Google and what's going to be coming down the line. So what I would say with this slide is, this is something that is really, really important to note. So I'll just go through, read the slide, then I'll add my bits, where they're saying the optimal account structure should mirror your website and have a combination of keyword targeting and dynamic search. All right, so let's break down. There's 2 core things there. I'm a firm believer that your account structure should mirror your website. So you've heard me talk time and time again about having, if you're in e-commerce, having different campaigns based around different product categories. I've given the example of some of my campaigns for an e-commerce brand I work with. They have, they have dresses, they also have crop tops, and they have joggers. So we've got individual Performance Max campaigns based around those different product categories. I've got another e-commerce brand. The reason why we do it that way is because they've got a really clear structure on their website which has those core product categories. I've got another brand that I work with, and they're very much broken down into a summer winter. So we have two campaigns, which are summer campaign, then with all of their, shorts, dresses, skirts. Then they have a winter campaign, which we've broken down into their jackets, knitwear. So that's why you do need to think about the structure of the website and best use that to your advantage when you are planning your campaign. So now with dynamic search, so this was one that it did make me go back and have a bit of a look at it. And this is probably answering some questions that we did have from the group. What I found with dynamic search, I've got some brands or services and service-based businesses where I only run Performance Max or search by itself. I have other ones where I do also run dynamic search in it. I can give you an example of one dynamic search company. The two ways that I use dynamic search, for one company, it becomes very much a remarketing on search for them. And their account ROAS is at 5.3x. They're an e-com brand. Their dynamic search runs at 9.1 over the last 30 days. Now, when we go through the search terms, we do see that picks up a lot of branded search, but it's generally brand and some other searches. And it could be a brand and their product name, or it could be their brand and a review, and they are converting. It does also bring up a lot of competitors' names, so I am having to go through and exclude those. Now you would say, what's the point of having it if it is brand? Well, I come down to the point of, would they have searched the brand name if they hadn't have first seen our impressions? Because when we do look at the data, we do see that Google Ads does generate a lot of first-time conversions. So there's that to take into context. For another account, where we use dynamic search in combination with Performance Max, we're using that to target specific areas. One company, for example, we're using that to target individual locations like London. They've got Performance Max campaigns that are running all over the UK, but we felt like we needed to boost some extra spend in London, and we've found dynamic search has been great for that. But then at the same time, I've got some other companies where I don't need to run it, and I haven't run it, or we have run it and it hasn't worked, or we've turned it off. So even though they're saying the account structure should have keyword targeting, whether that be search and Performance Max campaigns, and then dynamic search, I'm saying look at it as a results based on your own campaign. I've got some accounts where dynamic search is a great addition. I've got other accounts where dynamic search doesn't work. So keep that in context. But what I did find interesting here, and this is something to keep in mind with your own structure, is they broke it down to 3 examples, being that there's a website which is clearly organized by themes or categories and is indexed on Google search. That would be the optimum or the best option. The second one is that your website is not clearly organized by themes or categories, but is indexed in Google search. The example of that would be if you've got a one-page website, or also as well if you've got a website and you don't have any subheadings for your products. So, for example, if you're an e-commerce store, you might just have a home page, a shop which has all of your products, and then a contact page. So you haven't broken your shop down into your different categories and subcategories. What we're looking about here is if you've got like a mega menu. And example 3 is website is not clearly organized or is not indexed on Google search. Now, some people did ask the question, indexed on Google search, how do you do that? That would be done through Google Search Console. And the benefit of that is essentially you're giving your sitemap to Google, and how this assists in Google Ads is that Google is then able to see, I guess, the structure and what different content is available on the website. The reason why this would be important for dynamic search is that they would then know the best URLs to send different search queries to. So, and then there's a follow-up from here of if you've got, depending on whether you've got the example 1, example 2, example 3, what potential structures you could use. Remembering here that the ad groups could be also your asset groups. Running dynamic search, and so if you're doing keyword, a good point here, if you're doing a search campaign, running dynamic search and keywords in the same in the same campaign. So different ad groups, same campaign. I have done this on some campaigns. Generally, my preference is to run dynamic search in a different campaign. I have got this to work in 2 accounts. Once again, you have to really look at it at the data. What the difference is here is that the information that we've been given now from Google is that dynamic search will prioritize new search terms. So if someone was to search a t-shirt related keyword and that was and it was triggered in your ad, in this ad group, you would see the ad from here. If it was a new search term which was related to keywords and you weren't targeting it in your search, your general search or standard search ad group, that's where dynamic search would kick in. So if there's a search term, it would go keyword targeting first, dynamic targeting second. So that's a recommendation they've got, but obviously, you know, once again, clear structure where the example I gave before, like summer and winter, that's how I go. I'd go summer, winter, or, you know, in different campaigns. I've got other ones where the other example I gave you where we've got swimwear, dresses, crop tops. They're in different campaigns. Then it comes to your second one. Then this is if you don't have a like a menu with a category-based structure, in that you're basically what you're doing in here is you're separating it out so that you would be having your keywords for your different. This one they're using a hotel, so your different cities, and then they've got dynamic keywords going to your websites. The only thing I would say with dynamic keywords is when I do set up a dynamic keyword, I don't do this by themes, I do this by URLs. So that's probably one important way that that's probably one important point that I'd reference with using dynamic dynamic search campaigns. Sorry about that. Is that when you're setting it up, is that you want to be not targeting it by topic or keywords. You want to be targeting it by URLs on your website. And then finally, if you don't have any structure, it's pretty much the same again, except what you're doing is this is where you're adding the labels. As I said, I wouldn't add the labels. I would add in the actual URLs. So if you had some individual URLs around, for example, San Francisco and New York, but they weren't in your menu, you would have an ad group for your URLs here and an ad group for your New York URLs. Whereas if you did have a index structure on Google, you could just give them the whole collection of URLs in the same ad group. So the takeaway from there is that, you know, there's probably nothing new here in terms of the structure, which, you know, we teach in the community here time and time again. And if you've done any of my courses, nothing new in the structure. Probably the only difference would be here is that if you are potentially looking at growing your account, a way of doing it would be by testing a dynamic search campaign. As I've said at the start of this, I've seen it work. If I was to put a percentage on it, I would see that it would probably be about a 50-50 split of whether it's been successful or not. So, but even when it hasn't been successful, it's definitely given me some data about some new keyword themes that I've used, which I then throw into some separate ad groups in my search campaigns, or into new keyword themes in a different asset group for Performance Max. So I've never seen an issue in running dynamic search. I probably don't run it as much as they were recommending. So that's just my view on it. So as I would say, if you are interested in it, definitely I'd recommend testing it and trialing it. But like I say, with everything, it really comes down to what you're seeing in your own account. So dynamic search, I don't see it as being evil, but it's definitely something to test. The only thing that I would say there is as well is that when you are setting up dynamic search campaigns, is that you want to target it by URLs as opposed to putting in topics or labels. I have found that's where it can go, generally where it doesn't give the best results. And this was obviously, you know, one thing that they said, which, you know, we would all agree with, that remember that ad relevance is still important. So even within dynamic keyword insertion, sorry, dynamic campaigns, make sure that you are writing some headlines that are relevant. Also as well, they were a big believer in, and what I'm a big believer in as well is keyword insertion. Make sure you're adding in those keyword insertions. All right, so this was, now we're changing gears, and this is where they went into some different myths that we do here from time to time. Most of these I have sort of covered, but it is important to note. The first one is I need to have all keywords in all match types for maximum coverage. So that would be that in one ad group, you would have the same keyword, but you would have it targeted as a broad match, a exact match, and a phrase match. So for example, that would be 1-bedroom villas in Seminyak. You would have that 1-bedroom villas in Seminyak as a broad match, 1-bedroom villas in Seminyak as a phrase match, and then another one as an exact match. It's important to note here, that's not going to harm your account, but at the same time, it's not going to give you any maximum coverage. One of the examples, Ben gave a visual example of this, which I think is a great way of explaining it. Gave the example of fishing. If you're fishing with nets, consider broad match as you throwing out your largest net, phrase match is you throwing out your second largest net, and exact match is throwing out your smallest net. As you can imagine, if you're using broad match, you're not increasing your coverage by adding in any phrase match or exact match modifiers. So if you're running with broad match, theoretically you don't need to have those other phrase match and exact match. The reason why I still will add in high converting exact match keywords is just because it allows me, I do it for two reasons. One, it allows me to see some extra data at a keyword level. Obviously with broad match, because we're not getting all of the data in the search term reports, if I see in the search term report that a keyword is targeting, I add it as an exact match. And then if I see that that continues to convert at a high level, it gives me a little bit more granular data. The other reason for why I like to, as I've been really open in the community recently, the way that I'm structuring my ad groups now is I'm having 2 or 3 broad match keywords, and then I'm adding extra exact match keywords to it, is because I'm using dynamic keyword insertion in my ads. Is that if I have dynamic keyword insertion, so for example, if I only had the broad match keyword of 1-bedroom villa Seminyak, and someone was to search 1-bedroom pool villa Seminyak, with dynamic keyword insertion in my ad, it would still only show 1-bedroom villa Seminyak, because that was the keyword that triggered the search. Whereas if I also had in my ad group 1-bedroom pool villa Seminyak, that with dynamic keyword insertion, because that is the keyword that triggered the ad, that keyword goes into my headline. So if you're using dynamic keyword insertion, it's important to note that what goes into the ad copy is the keyword that triggered the ad, not the keyword that the user used. So that would be the benefit of having that's another benefit of having a couple of other, so having 2 or 3 broad match keywords and then a collection of exact match keywords, because you've got more chance of the user's actual keyword phrase appearing in the ad copy. Okay, if I have 2 identical keywords in different match types, they'll cannibalize each other. That's pretty much what we're talking about before. They're not going to cannibalize each other. What will happen is if it's an exact match keyword and the person, if you've got 1-bedroom villa Seminyak, using the same example as an exact match keyword, and you've also got it as a broad match keyword, if the user was to search 1-bedroom villa Seminyak, which is the exact match and the broad match, the exact match would trigger, and the data will be counted versus the exact match. If they were to search 1-bedroom villa Bali, and I didn't have that keyword, but I had the broad match keyword of 1-bedroom villa Seminyak, you guessed it, the data goes into the broad match keyword. Secondly, dynamic search ads will steal traffic from my campaign-based keywords. Now, this is probably one little bit of, I've never heard it explained like this. 15% of all Google searches are new, and the main goal of dynamic search is to help you reach customers that are not currently reaching with keyword-based campaigns. And it says here, we estimate that 80% of dynamic search traffic is incremental. So, to put that in more layman's terms, what they're saying there is that dynamic search ads will prioritize new search traffic. So that is probably another benefit to reason to test your dynamic search keywords. So dynamic search ad groups is looking at can it attract new potential keywords or keyword themes that you're not targeting yet that are going to be beneficial. Now, me personally, rather than doing this through dynamic keyword ads, I do this through broad match keywords. So that's another reason for why I have broad match keywords. I have 2 or 3 of them in an ad group, because then when I go through my search terms, I'm finding more new keyword themes. So I would argue with this, the reason probably why I don't use dynamic search as much as they're recommending is because recently I've been switching over and using broad match keywords, and I still feel that broad match keywords at least allows me to have a little bit more control over the meaning, especially as I recommend that we're using 4 or 5 word keywords. So we're giving Google more context. For me, that's where I still feel more comfortable. So if you were going to pressure me on if I had a choice of using broad match keywords or dynamic search ads, I would still lean towards broad match keywords. Once again, that's personally my opinion. So I don't want you to hear me say that Aaron hates dynamic search ads. What I'm saying is that I find personally better results with broad match keywords. But having said that, I do have some accounts where dynamic search is working great. All right, this is one that we do get quite a bit, and I get as well, which is my website has changed. I need to fully restructure my account. So you can read this in full, but it says it is important to understand the reasons why you need to restructure your account, since in many cases a full restructure may not be necessary. So what I would say here is that when you're looking at restructuring your account, what I like to do, rather than just pausing all of my campaigns and starting new ones, so if I'm taking on a new account, rather than just pausing everything and starting things new, what I like to do is I go through the account and I try to preserve the areas of the account that are working well. So for example, we just took on another account. They had 5 different campaigns. We kept the 2 campaigns that were performing well, and then we introduced a new Performance Max campaign. So we ended up having 2 search campaigns that were around different products, and then we had some Performance Max campaigns that were grouping a different collection of products. So they had those new products around three other campaigns. I think it was one search, a dynamic, one search, a display, and a YouTube. So don't feel like, as I said, the biggest thing for me is when it comes to restructuring our account, I don't like turning off everything and then restarting from scratch. I prefer to preserve the good bits that are working in your account, turn off the bad bits, and then add in any gaps. So do your review, focus on the good, turn off the bad, and then look to see is there any gaps, and that's when you then go through and add in new campaigns or new ad groups. All right, if I restructure my account, my quality score will be impacted. Now, one thing I will note in here, when I post this up in the community, there is actually a 10-page quality score white paper that they gave us access to. I do know some people have been asking about quality score. I've had a read through it. That's got some great data, some real analytical data for you. So I'll keep this page here. Go back when you download these slides. Just make sure you go through and have a full read of this quality score white paper. Smart bidding works on a more consolidated account structure. So smart bidding works with all account structures and can be optimized based on data from your campaigns. That means from a performance standpoint, consolidating your account into fewer campaigns won't automatically deliver better results. Okay. The bigger issue here for me, and this wasn't really touched on, is the big switch that's happening in Google at the moment is that, and many of you may have seen that at the time of releasing this last night on my YouTube channel, I released a video about how I'm not using Max CPC anymore. I know I've spoken about this in countless coaching calls, how I don't generally like to use Max CPC. Let me tell you the reasons for that. It comes into 2 reasons. First one, as there's being more and more Performance Max campaigns being used, and as more and more people are moving over to smart bidding. So that would be max CPC. Sorry, that would be max conversions or max conversion value, and then they also have a target ROAS or a target CPA there. The issue that is having it on max CPC is that if you're getting high level of conversion data, Google knows that it only has to bid an extra 1 cent to win the auction. So for me, what I'd be more looking at here is it's more important to make sure that you've got a lot of conversion data in your account so that you can utilize smart bidding to its fuller extent, rather than being worried about smart bidding being affected on your account structure. So I know that's probably gone off what the slide was, but for me, that's probably the more important myth to bust, is that when people say smart bidding doesn't work. Smart bidding works as long as you've got enough conversion data in here. For those in the meeting, one thing I did also find interesting is that they were still very strong on needing 30 conversions in 30 days. So I will go through and explain that more when we talk about Performance Max later. But yeah, for me, if smart bidding isn't working, it's because you don't have enough data, and that's why I always say start on maximize clicks. When you get enough conversions, that's when you introduce your smart bidding, your max conversions. Okay, one thing that we both agreed on, you would know that I don't like single keyword ad groups anymore, SCAGs. They're just an outdated strategy. The reason for why they are outdated is because as Google has changed its match types, the match types are really, really broad. You just can't, you used to be able to really separate via ad groups, things like search terms for 1-bedroom villas Bali could go into different ad groups of 1-bedroom villa Seminyak. With targeting now, Google would see that as the same search term. So that's why you're better off using less ad groups with more keywords in it and utilizing dynamic keyword insertion. Okay, so now we get into the next section, where this is probably where they spent the most time, was talking about AI and the future. So one thing that I will sort of take you through, once again, remembering that's how it used to look, and this is what it's going to be looking at in the future, as you can see over here. Now, we have heard about this coming through. One thing that's really, really interesting to note is that the first type of ads that are going to be in this new chat generated search is search and shopping ads. Now, these will also take place from your Performance Max campaigns, your search campaigns, and your shopping campaigns. But you can see here how it is going to look and how Google is coming back and fighting against the new tools like Chat GPT. Someone pointed out on my YouTube channel that I've been saying that wrong, and I listened back, and I've been saying Chat GTP. So when it's actually, so anyway, a little funny quirk there with the way that I speak. Sorry about that. But what we've got here, so you can see now that Google is going to be a lot more interactive and a lot more conversational based. But this is how the ads are going to look for our customers. So what is going to be important here is this is where it does come back into making sure, especially with your shopping campaigns, that you've got a good product title structure. So you're not just mentioning your brand, you're mentioning the product name, and then you're also mentioning the modifiers in there, like the products, the materials used, the dimensions. The other thing is going to be for service-based industries. It's going to be really, really important to know to make sure that you've got all of your ad assets there. So you've got your site links, you've got your call outs, and also making sure that you're sending them to landing pages that have content on there, 200-300 words of content. So this is where it's going to be really, really important, because relevance is going to be key with these AI search chat features. But the good thing that I saw here is that we don't need to be worried. I think Google search is going to be here for a long, long time to come. Okay, this was the next bit. Now, this is conversational experience inside of Google Ads. So the AI conversational chat feature is not only going to be in the user, it's also going to be in the Google Manager. Now, for those of you in the live session, you would know that I did ask this question about, does this replace the need for Google Ads managers to think about the structure? You know, the slides we're looking at further, and they were very clear that the AI technology cannot come and give you a structure yet. So where this will help will be is that if you create your structure, so go through and you go, we want to have a campaign targeting this product, and then we want to have another campaign targeting this product. The AI won't be able to do that. It'll just lump it all together. But where it will help is it will help with your keyword, the ad copy. Things that I would say there is that I'm still really, at the moment, my recommendation with the keyword search tool is I'm just going in with 2 or 3 broad match keywords, and then I'm building out my my exact match list through my search terms or my insights reports. For ad copy, I do take recommendations from here, but I still go through the process of, I find the ad copies from AI is good for keyword focus, and it's even good for for call to actions. Where it does lack a little bit is that other area, which I think is still really, really important for Google Ads, and that is for emotional triggers. I would even say even more so at the moment, as more and more people are just using keyword focus and call to actions, if you can spend the time to add in a little bit of humor, a little bit of fear into your ad copy, you're going to get much better results. But great time-saving tool. Then obviously automatically created assets. This is going on where basically what's happening in here is that Google will also be looking at the landing page to bring in some extra data. So previously Google was just looking at the search term that the user used and the headlines that you provided or the ad copy you provided. Now with automatically created assets, Google will also be looking at the landing page. So you don't have anything to fear here as long as your landing pages or your content on your website is up to date. But if you've got some outdated content on your website, this is where you'll come into problems. So, you can just see, for example, the user used skincare for dry, sensitive skin. In the old days, it would just use shop our skincare and hair care line, get ready to turn heads. This one, it just added in the extra context, soothe your dry, sensitive skin. So it's, once again, if you've got dynamic, what I was talking about before, if you're using dynamic keyword insertion and you are continually building out your phrase match and your exact match keywords from those baseline broad match keywords, this isn't going to be as a big of issue for you. Okay, new insights. Now, this is something that we did go through in our last coaching calls. I have, to be honest with you, I've been impressed with the level of data we're getting in this insights tab. Generally, when Google does a Google Ad dashboard update, they take data away. They've now given us some extra data here. So what I'm recommending as well, and you'll see when we've gone through the coaching calls, is especially on Performance Max campaigns, one of the main things we're doing is we're going into the search term insights, because it's important to note you can get this data for Performance Max campaigns. I'm copying the top performing keywords by conversions and adding them into the audience signal. Doing the same with the audiences. Top converting audiences, adding them into the audience signal. The benefit of that is, and that's the true with all of these AI tools, is you'll want you to think about it like this, is that if I've never been to New York, I know we've got some community members from New York. If I was to head to New York for the first time, I would say, hey, what's some recommendations for the best slice of pizza in New York? You'd give me your top 3 recommendations. I would use that as a starting point to then do some further research to find out what's the best pizza for me, for my taste. That's what's happening here. Is by adding in extra keywords into your audiences, you're giving Google a starting point, saying this is where I want you to start your testing, and this is where I want you to start your focus of the spend. So what I'd be doing with this is, in the insights, you'll see here, for the keywords, I want you to focus on conversions. When it gets to the audiences, I want you to focus on conversions as well. In the audiences, it gives you by impressions, clicks, and conversions. Focus on the conversions. Add them into your audience signals, and this will allow you to continue to grow the information that you're giving to Google. This was look, I did find this one interesting. This is probably going to be really interesting for smaller businesses, where basically the AI tools around images, you're going to be able to create this within Google Ads. Now, this isn't something new because Google is also giving you recommendations. It's probably just giving it a little bit supercharged in that now you can add in some descriptions in here. So you can say, you know, I want you to give me some images of pet food on a plate, and it'll generate it for you. The other thing that it can do is, as well, is if you've got some images that you've uploaded, it can increase the quality for you. So it's basically like an editing tool inside of Google Ads. This will be really, really good for smaller businesses who don't have in-house ad creating teams. Oops, sorry. Okay, so the next thing is, we obviously with the product studio, this is going a little bit further on, is that what this can do, especially for image brands in the e-commerce space, you can see if you've got a standalone product image with no background, you can add in the backgrounds, or vice versa. If you've got a product image with background, you can remove the background. So once again, just helping businesses with smaller teams, that they would now be able to do some different testing on the types of product images that work best, and you could have it on, you know, dark backgrounds, light backgrounds, colorful backgrounds, and you can create all of that within Google Ads. All right, introducing demand generation. Now, a side note that I will give, for some reason, Google is coming up with the most corniest campaign names, in my own opinion. I don't like the name Performance Max. I'm not a fan of demand generation. But demand generation, look, it does sound interesting. What this will be is that, think of it, demand generation is going to be replacing discovery campaigns. It's essentially like a Performance Max without the search or shopping feed. So it's going to be the main way that you can advertise on YouTube Shorts. It'll also have YouTube in-stream and feed, and then your Gmail. So a way to think of this is that it's going to be hitting the top of the funnel. So it would be very much targeting people who, in their brand consideration, or you're wanting to introduce your brands to them. So the way that this is just showing you some examples how to flow. Now, when this comes out, I'll treat demand generation the same way that I treated Performance Max, in that when it's launched, I probably won't, I'll probably just do some testing on my own brand. To see the initial results before I start recommending it to clients. With Performance Max, I did the same thing. I didn't use it for the first 4 to 5 months until I took on some accounts that were using Performance Max, so it wasn't my decision to introduce it. I had a look at the results. I then also started using it on my own campaign, and then I did a series of tests before I started wide scale recommending it. That's what I'm going to be doing for Demand Gen. Demand Gen is in open beta testing at the moment. Look, it's interesting. I think before, just as a word of warning, I wouldn't be jumping in and using it as soon as it gets launched. My view would be to wait a good 3 to 4 months before we are ready to use it. As it comes available wider, which I'm believing it will become available wider over the next couple of months. I've actually just seen inside of Google Ads accounts today that there is a notification about Demand Gen, which you may have also seen. We'll obviously be putting some time towards it in the community once we have some more data, and once I've done some initial testing, I'll give you my views on it and when I think it's ready to start using Demand Gen. You've got some different information there, but the easiest way to think about it, this may not be 100% accurate, but the easiest way to think about it conceptually would be that it's Performance Max without the search, without the search intent, and without the remarketing. It's hitting the top of the funnel. All right, this is something that was really, really interesting in here. Now, this is when we're talking about these new AI tools. They've given basically a checklist that you need to be focusing on, and this is making sure that you've got site-wide tagging with Google Tag, set up enhanced conversions, assigning values to your conversions, and utilizing Google Analytics 4. So I'm going to be spending some time with this on our next masterclasses to really get down onto this. What I found interesting in this, and this has been also with some offline talks with different Google staff in different locations, is Google is concerned about the rapidly declining data that they're getting from third-party cookies and device IPs. For example, we all know, we've seen the ads for Apple with iPhone where you can opt out of giving your data. So enhanced conversions is something that's going to become really, really important. Also as well, I've had some longer discussions just about with some other thought leaders in the area that I'm talking to. And our overwhelming consensus is that moving forward in the digital marketing space, we're all going to have to accept that the level of accuracy that we've had in our conversions probably won't be the same moving forward. Digital marketing is going to be coming as our online, as our lives move more and more online. Digital marketing is going to become more traditional marketing, so like TV and radio. Now, I think the difference will be we will be able to have some conversions, some conversion data, whereas historically, we'd be able to have conversion data which was about 80 to 90 to 100% accurate. That's probably going to dump down to about 50 to 60%, and that's purely just going to be through searching, changing patterns, government regulation, devices not sharing devices like your phones not sharing as much data, and also the restrictions on third party. This is where enhanced conversions is going to become really, really important, and a big trend is going to be companies feeding their data back into Google Ads. So essentially what the cornerstone here is that you need to have your conversion tracking set up so that Google gets the initial data when they complete email sign up, or they can do an add to cart, and then you're feeding back in the actual conversion data so that Google has a better idea of who actually converts. Now, where this becomes so powerful is that if you can feed as much data into Google as possible so they know the type of people that convert, it then gives these AI platforms more power, so more confidence to target certain groups of people. Think of it like this. If you're using a chat tool, we know that if you said, can you create a HR policy for an Australian-based business who's looking at employing someone in America, it would give you a HR policy. But if you were to add in some extra details in there and say, can you create a HR policy? Here's my company's goals and missions. I also want the online contractor to be fully aware that all IP throughout the contract remains the property of my company. And if you start layering different details like that, saying, like for example, my company is based in Queensland, Australia, the AI tool will give you a much more accurate result. That's the same thing as well that's going to be happening in Google Ads. So it's going to be really important. The more data we can give Google Ads, the better it's going to be able to target new business for us. I'll just leave that there. I do recommend you going through this list and doing it all. But what we will do in a coming session is I am actively talking to get someone to come in and take us through the process of setting up enhanced conversions. I will let you know as well that this is really, really technical. Overwhelming message coming in from Google is that businesses will need to invest in this because it's not a one size fits all, because there's so many different points that need to be feeding in. So one thing that especially for smaller businesses, it is going to mean that you will have to invest some money to really make sure that you got your tracking set up so that you can have the best confidence in your conversion tracking, and so that you can also have the best confidence in the ability for you to be able to target new customers in Google Ads. And that was pretty much they did go through and go a little bit more about the different teams they offer. But for me, the biggest thing that I sort of took away from it is the importance around about data collection, especially for making sure that you've got enhanced conversions, or you're on the pathway of setting up enhanced conversions. So for me, the discussion doesn't stop here. The next, what I'm going to be really focusing on over the coming months is to really give you as much information as possible about the enhanced conversions, because I just see them being so powerful for all of our businesses as we move forward. So that's where I'd be looking at it from there. The other thing that I do want to say here as well is I did get 2 questions in the feed, and that was from Majad and also from Ella. you both asked the same question, and it was very much around about the using of search Performance Max along with search, display, and also using Performance Max along with alongside with search, shopping, and display campaigns. The answer to that is both the same, and I touched on it at the start of this talk. So I don't see a problem with it. I've got some examples where I run Performance Max by itself. I've got other campaigns where I run Performance Max with search. I've got other accounts where I run Performance Max with shopping, and other ones where I run it with Performance Max, shopping, and display. For me, it really comes down to look at the data. If the supplementary campaigns like the supporting search and shopping campaigns or display campaigns are performing well, keep them running. I think, Ella, you mentioned that you saw a really high CPC in your dynamic search. If that's the case, I'll just pause it. So for me, it really comes down to looking at the individual results, seeing if it's giving benefit to your business. Hey guys, it's been a pleasure sharing this with you. As always, please keep the conversation going and let me know if you've got any further questions.